building up for the flamingo pose, and like with any animals, the flamingo has and holds lots of symbology. So it's about being social, vibrant, having colorful expression. And I know if you've ever been to an exhibit of flamingos, say at a local zoo, when you go to that exhibit, most of the time they're standing on one leg, and they have the second leg kind of tucked up towards their bodice, and their beak is swirling around towards their tail feathers when they're trying to rest or sleep. So because a flamingo stands this way, it's all about balance and finding the balance, especially during times of uncertainty. So since we are living through times of uncertainty, I thought we could embody the flamingo today and what it represents. It also represents stature and grace. Anytime you feel like you fall from grace, being able to rise back up. So it's been compared to a phoenix and how a phoenix will rise from the ashes. In Hindu mythology, it can often be paired with a swan as well. So some of the stories of Brahma, it could be a flamingo or a swan. I typically think of swan, same with Saraswati having a swan. But from my understanding or something that I read, the flamingo could be interchanged with the swan. What I want you to consider though is the fact that we're moving into this age of Aquarius, and we're moving out of the 3D reality, everything we've known life to be, and how the earth has been, to what we're shifting into energetically. Energetically, we're shifting into a 5D reality, which is more metaphysical, more about the arts, more about being in the present moment. And if you think about balancing poses, they demand our presence in the moment, otherwise we'll fall on our face. So we're going to be building up to flamingo pose, and I know there are a couple flamingo poses. The one that's called the humble flamingo is something that I've heard, gratitude asana. We're not going to be building up for that one per se, but the one where we're standing on one leg and kind of folding over, but we'll get there. All right, so we'll start in child's pose. So if you come into child's pose, you can do it two different ways. I prefer the traditional way. Arms wrapped around the body, palms up at the feet, resting on the brow, where you can get a little bit of more of a tear shape or egg shape with the spine, penetrating the third eye. However, you may enjoy the extended child's form, which is arms outstretched, so that you're lengthening more of that space behind the heart, more into the mid and upper back, gaining a little bit more traction. But since we're starting here, have your arms relaxed so the elbows just prop down to the sticky mat, and begin to take deep breaths in and out through the nose. And as you're taking these deep breaths in and out through the nose, focus on the expansion you experience on each and every inhalation. You may feel it balloon more in the front side of the body, but see and try if you can expand your side body or your back body as well. I want you to consider moments in time where we have to be in 3D reality, and there's other times where we enter into the 5D reality. So when we're doing the physical postures and engaging the body and trying to structure it a certain way, obviously we're more in that 3D reality. And when we're in meditation, when we get into that sweet space and all distractions have gone away, we're moving more into that 5D reality. We watched a movie last night called Soul that just came out, and it depicted that beautifully. Whenever the person was playing piano, they got lost in the moment where spirit was just flowing through them, and they were just in it. And all this beautiful music was being created, and everything else in the background just kind of faded away. That's like 5D reality. So the idea of the flamingo and the time that we're going through, we could have 1 foot in 3D, 1 foot in 5D. So you may go back and forth depending on where the focus of the mind is. So go ahead and take 3 more deep breaths in child's pose. On your next inhalation, let's go ahead and float the face up. Extend the arms out where the elbows actually fly up away from the ground. Look forward down the length of your mat, rocking up to hands and knees. And as you exhale, drop low like a half chaturanga or a half plank. Inhale lifts you up, and the exhale sails you back to where you began. Continue with repetition. Inhale to tabletop, nice firm belly. Exhale, drop and hover. Inhale, lift to defy gravity, and exhale, extended child's pose. So each time you inhale with this sequence, you're going to be in tabletop. And every time you exhale in the sequence, you're going to be coming closer to the floor. Let's do one more. And since that was requiring a lot of upper body mechanics and strength, just take pause, return to your breath, and control your breath. On your next inhalation, rock forward and up to upward facing dog. And as you exhale, curl the toes under and roll back to downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to up dog. And exhale, rock and roll back to down dog. Continue with this repetition to warm up the body, to bring flexibility to the spine, and to strengthen the core. So when you're transitioning from up dog to down dog, use your quads, your hips, and your abdomen. Let's do one more. When you return to downward facing dog, be here now. The flamingo spirit also represents the higher self that we're tapped into when we're anchored in the now moment. Letting go of the past and letting go of worrying about the future. Sail your seat up a little bit higher and then travel the hands back towards your toes. Doesn't have to touch, but land your heels. I invite you to bend the knees. Release the weight of the head. And then if you want to move into dangling pose, clasp a hold of your arms. Gravitate the heart a little lower towards the shins. Smooth, even breaths. And it is permissible to have a longer out breath here. When you're ready, get low enough by bending your knees so that you can walk the hands out in front of you and form plank position. Thighs plucking up towards the sky, wrists below the inside of the shoulders, heart shining forward, keep the head up. And on your next exhalation, descend the left knee below the hip. Fly the right leg up, but not terribly high, because if the foot lifts too much, you're gonna bow the back, and we need the core engagement here. So you can glance back over your shoulder, make sure your heel is in line with your hip, and then really push back into that foot as though it were an extension of your tailbone. Anchor the left shin and foot, as well as the right palm, and then fly the left arm up. extending alternate limbs in spinal balance. Gaze at one spot and breathe. Then lower the left hand down, sink the right toes to the floor. Your left shin's going to scoot back, your right foot's going to ground down, and you spiral open to the right. From here, pick up your right foot, flex that ankle so that you're engaging the muscles through the entire leg, and then zip up your midriff. Fan the fingers wide open on the top hand. Now on your next exhale, sink the right foot, arch up through your side body, drape the head down, and the right arm and hand. Suction up through the bottom ribs. And feel free to even turn your chin and eyes down. When you're ready, come back to plant the right hand, spin the left shin back, lower the right knee, take the left leg back, toes curled. When you're ready, pick up the left foot, flex that ankle, stabilize by drawing in through those abdomen muscles, anchor down through the foundation of the pose, and soar the right arm forward. Find a fixed gaze with your eyes. Find stature and grace. Affirming, as I move through life, I choose to stay anchored in myself. Take the right hand down. When you're ready, lower the left foot. Shift your right shin back. Spin down to your left heel. Open up to your left. And you can choose to be here, but you can strengthen your core and hip if you elevate the back foot. Spread the toes on that foot. Pause here. Remembering we hold the asanas, but not the breath. So keep the breath fluid. Now set the left foot down, arch up through your side ribs, drape over. Most importantly, breathe. So the idea is to master the breath. So the breath reigns over the poses. The breath can help us to cross over to 5D. And when you're ready, lower the left hand, bring the right shin back, left knee down, and just sink back into child's pose. You can do the extended, or you can squeeze the belly in, allowing the shoulders to drape over the knees. And a little bit more weight in the brow. Just taking a momentary rest, coaxing yourself with breath. So there's another symbolic nature of the flamingo that you can try to embody in this pose, and it's serenity and being contented within oneself. So just notice how this pose is very comforting and soothing. When we're in poses like this, we can shift down below the gross anatomy of the body, down even below the energetic body, below the mind chatter, and even the wisdom of the mind towards the innermost layer called Anandamaya Kosha, or the layer of bliss and contentment. We're not staying here, so we're going to inhale, extend the arms forward again. Rock up hands and knees. Exhale to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Make that inverted V shape with your body. See how high you can elevate your sits bones by keeping integrity through the limbs and expanding open behind the knees. When you're ready, you can meditationally walk forward 1 foot at a time, but you're going to keep your legs elongated, active, lifting the trunk halfway up, and then exhale, continue to maintain the structure of the legs as you fold. Coming into Uttanasana. On your next in-breath, press down through the feet, sweep the arms to your sides and up overhead. Coming to Urdhva Hastasana. Drill the landing line from your legs down through the soles of the feet, and then reach up to the rim of the pelvis, up through the fingertips. Exhale, hands come down to the heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, deep dive into Uttanasana. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. This time, we're coming all the way down like a low push-up. Inhale to up dog. Exhale back to down dog. Now with your head releasing between the upper arm bones, look back towards the feet. If there's too much space between the big toes, close that gap a little bit. We're going to inhale, uplift the right leg. Exhale, swing that foot all the way through between the hands. Sink the back knee, untuck the back toes, and keep sinking through the hips. Find a point to gaze at with your eyes and form the relationship with your breath. So when you hear this commentary about 5D, which you're going to be hearing more and more of, the 5D is taking us to unity consciousness. And the Christmas star that we experienced the week of Christmas in 2020 is to be that beacon of light and hope. The hope that things are going to improve and get better, even though this next year is going to be just as challenging. Now, stack your hands on top of the knee. Slowly lift the crown of the head. If this feels like it's too much for the iliopsoas, the front side of that back hip, or if it feels like it's too much for the disc in the low back, you can be more active, pressing down through the right foot. Notice how that brings the pelvic floor up. You can even use the root lock, squeezing up through the pelvic floor, drawing up through the navel, and then even elevating your arms. Next, exhale, hands land down to frame the front foot. Curl the back toes, swing the right leg out and up. From here, we're coming towards pigeon or swan. Swan being interchangeable with the flamingo in certain stories. The right knee faces off to the right side. Come on down to Sphinx arms and check in. If it's too much for the hip or the knee, you can always lean to the right hip, slide your left knee in, and fold over this way in deer pose. If you feel like you don't have as much density in the right hip, if it feels pretty pliable today, feel free to spill down lower. good time to close the eyes, to retreat inside, and embody serenity. Longer, slower exhalations will help you to find some repose in this position. On your next inhalation, let's slowly rise back to Sphinx arms. And then we're going to take a different shape. So the left arm is going to turn in front, and just make sure you're not sagging down. The point is to root down through the left forearm so your chest is actually flying upward. You're going to actually twist to the right, and the right arm is going to thread and loop behind your back. Some of you may even have the flexibility to drop or slide the right hand down towards the foot you're on top of. Don't worry if you can't. Gently unwind from that twist. Stack back to your hands, curl the back toes under, launch into downward facing dog. And then from downward facing dog, you can choose to be here. You can choose to drop into child's pose. Maybe that's your touchstone for the practice today. Or you can shift forward to plank and move through an entire vinyasa flow. Yogi's choice. But we'll move to the second side once you return to down dog. So if you were in child's, pop back up to this pose. Make sure there's not too much space between the big toes. That way you stay balanced on one foot as you sail the left leg skyward. And then exhale, step the foot all the way through. Lift your chest away from the knee, and then sink the back knee, shin, and foot. Just melt down a moment. And know that every suggestion is just that, a suggestion. If you're embodying the flamingo, you have your own colorful expression, even in the postures. Remember, it also represents the higher self. So pay attention to your inner voice. Maybe stack the hands to the knee. Start to erect the spine. Testing the waters here. If you want to be more active, press through the left foot. Give yourself a lift. More space in the lumbar area of the low back. Find a fixed point for your eyes. We call that drishti. Exhale, land your hands. Curl the back toes under. Scissor the left leg skyward from downward facing dog. And then we're coming into that pigeon or swan variation. Remember that left knee is facing the side. And then if you need deer pose, you can take some of the weight off that hip and knee. Otherwise, keep the hips square and even, and slowly lower. If you feel like you can lower more, you can move down into that space to Sphinx arms. This time the right arm will cross in front. We'll root down through that side so we can twist to the left hand, threads behind the back, maybe even dropping down to find the foot you're resting on. Exhale, let's unwind. Prop back onto the palms, curl the back toes under, launch into downward facing dog. If you want a final vinyasa, you can take plank, lower to chaturanga, build into your heart opener, and then eventually cast back to downward facing dog. Inhale, you can walk the feet forward, you can lunge the feet forward, or you can float the feet to the top, but the legs are structured and strong. Exhale, spill down, releasing the crown. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, hands return to the heart. So if you happen to have two blocks, grab those. And you can also use like an ottoman, if you have something of that nature, sitting around the house. We're going to take the left foot to the center of the mat. And this is important. We want the blocks to be moved way ahead, at least a ruler's distance. And you want them shoulder distance apart, where the left toes would go right through the center. When you lift and shift, so you're lifting the back foot and you're shifting the shoulders over the hands, and ideally the left hip is stationed over the left ankle. Square the hips. And then if you want to swirl open through the hips by lifting the right hip up, turning the foot out to the side, you can eventually uplift your right hand and move into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. Then eventually lower the right hand down as well as the right hip. And we're going to replace the left foot with the right to take it to the other side. When you're ready, lift and shift, elevating the back leg, pushing back through the four corners of the foot. And you can choose to stay here. If you want to rock the left hip open, you can slowly begin to lift your left arm, Ardha Chandrasana. Staying balanced in times of uncertainty. Exhale, lower the left hand, lower the left hip, and then eventually both feet. All right, I think we're ready to move into flamingo. So we're going to take it in 3 stages. You know, this mat is actually very cushy, and if you're on carpet at home, it may be best to try this on a flat wood surface or a tile surface or even a wooden deck. But I'm going to try it on the mat. Broaden the base of your left foot. Stack and stand. Core engaged. Good posture. Lift the right knee. Now this is more of a Padangusthasana A variation, but this could work for flamingo. The second stage of flamingo, if you feel confident to move there, is to hinge over like you were preparing for Padangusthasana C. Now I like to bend the standing leg to move into the full expression of flamingo. This way I can hook the arm, bind with the other, and then straighten the left leg, tip forward, and slightly tuck the head. Flamingo. You don't have to hold it terribly long. It's fun to try. And we'll move to the second side. So we'll broaden the base of the right foot. Tadasana form. When you're ready, uplift your left knee. So again, stage one could be your flamingo today. Stage two, hinging over. Stage three, binding the arms, straightening the right leg, leaning, tucking, and release. All right, we're going to come down to the floor because I think this is important, especially when you're doing a home practice or when you're traveling and you don't have access to another teacher. You have to become your own teacher. So this flamingo pose that we just did is very similar to one of the Marichyasana poses found in Ashtanga. So if you extend your left leg, and instead of having the foot so close to the thigh, you're going to create some space and move it on over. When you do this, you have the space available to extend your trunk and your right arm through the inside of it. You spin and twist the arm to bind it in front of the shin. Left arm will reach ahead before backstroking. The hands may or may not meet. If they do, clasp the hands together. And you can either gaze forward towards the toes, or you can lower the head. So you can see this is very similar to flamingo, what we just did. On your next inhale, slowly come up, cross the foot over to the other side, lift up energetically, swirl the right hand behind your back, and twist. Channel the breath up and down the astral spine. Exhale and wind. Extend your right leg, bend your left knee, but not too close. Create some space to reach through, to bind, and fold. Either looking out with the eyes or looking down. Inhale, come up. Exhale, hop the foot over. Lift up energetically. Exhale, rotate left and breathe. And then unwind. Scoot ahead. Roll down to your back. Hug the knees in. And then we can take Shavasana. Maybe tucking the shoulders under the body, sliding the feet out in front of you. Spinning the palms open, keeping the heart and mind open. Take at least 3 to 5 controlled breaths. work and engagement. But staying concentrated on your breath and ensuring that you're not getting caught up in the thoughts of yesterday or tomorrow. On your next inhale, bend the knees, roll over to one side of your body, press down into the hands to come up. Sitting cross-legged for a moment with your hands turned open, but your eyelids turned down. Finding stature and grace here, and hopefully experiencing some contentment in your own skin. Draw the palms together, bow your head humbly. Thank you for embodying the flamingo spirit through the practice today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.